Look closely at New York City right now, and you will see thousands of people sleeping out on the streets in makeshift tents. This visualization shows the hidden scale of the problem. For every single person sleeping on the street, there are 4 completely empty, abandoned apartments sitting entirely unused right next to them. To figure out how a city ends up with thousands of empty units while people sleep outside, look at a well-intended policy: rent control. As housing got incredibly expensive and citizens struggled to pay, politicians stepped in to pass protective laws. The promise made perfect sense on paper. By legally capping exactly what landlords could charge, lawmakers assured everyone that struggling families would finally be able to afford a place to live. Instead, perfectly good housing was abandoned entirely. Buildings were left to rot, creating a massive shortage for the exact people the law should protect. To see how a policy designed to save housing actually destroyed it, we need to stop looking at the visible intentions of politicians and start looking at the hidden math underneath. Imagine your school suddenly announces that lunch is completely free and totally unlimited. At first, you just get the normal crowd, but word spreads fast, and suddenly there is a massive rush. Look at this chart comparing supply and demand. The supply of pizza is fixed, but making it artificially cheap causes the demand bar to shoot upward. People who usually bring their own food show up, and everyone grabs extra slices just in case. As you can see, that static supply rapidly drains to zero. 20 minutes later, the pizza is completely gone. The people who showed up early hoarded everything they could carry, and the latecomers got absolutely nothing. That exact same behavior happens in real estate. At a lower, legally controlled price, the college student who was going to stay with his parents decides to get his own place. The widow who considered moving in with family keeps a 3-bedroom apartment entirely to herself. Everyone grabs extra space. Meanwhile, the landlords face a quiet, mathematical crisis. Their rental income is locked by law, but the cost of plumbers, electricians, and raw materials keeps going up. Eventually, they literally cannot afford to fix the roof or patch the pipes. The building rots from the inside out, and the owners are forced to simply walk away, leaving empty shells behind. Rent control does not make the city cheaper. It actively destroys the financial engine that keeps buildings operational and livable in the first place. This breakdown is not isolated to a few badly managed neighborhoods in New York. It is a mathematical certainty that breaks any system you apply it to. During an inflation crisis in Zimbabwe, the government panicked over the skyrocketing cost of living and placed a strict cap on the price of food, hoping to keep the population fed. But they ignored the farmers. The cost of growing crops was so high that selling at the government's controlled price meant losing money on every single harvest. So farmers simply stopped bringing food to the market. Within hours, the grocery stores emptied out entirely. People faced literal starvation while crops rotted out in the fields. In the early 2000s, India tried the exact opposite approach. They wanted to protect their agricultural sector, so they guaranteed a legally enforced artificially high price floor for wheat. Guaranteed a high payout, farmers grew vastly more wheat than the country actually needed. 11 million tons of it piled up in massive warehouses in Lydd, while people in other regions went hungry. Whether you legally force prices too high or cap them too low, you sever the feedback loop between buyers and sellers, guaranteeing a massive failure in the supply chain. There is a cruel irony to all of this. Price controls are almost always enacted as a moral imperative to protect the poorest and most vulnerable citizens. But when the legal supply of a resource disappears, the wealthy adapt. They pay under the table, they bribe someone on the inside, or they use their connections to get what they want. The people who lack those corrupt resources, the exact people the laws were written for, are the ones left staring at empty grocery shelves and boarded-up apartment buildings. Prices are not an arbitrary enemy plotted by greedy corporations that politicians need to defeat with legislation. This balancing seesaw illustrates how a healthy market works. Prices function as an economic thermometer. They are the single most honest, mathematical signal a society has to communicate exactly how much of a resource exists and how badly people need it to keep everything level. So the next time a politician promises to make something affordable by legally controlling the price, Ignore the visible promise. Ask yourself, what happens to the supply?